Good evening, witches, and welcome to week 11 of the Beginner Witch series. We will get started in just a moment. Good evening. Good evening, witches. Well,
My tea is still very hot. You can't see the steam in the
I can see
video.
it. If you're new, I'm Kat, and this is Jamie, and you are in week 11 of the Beginner Witch series.
11.
Week 11. Tonight we're going to
crazy.
talk about spell work. We've been talking about spell work for 2 weeks, but it's so big that we actually dedicated 4 weeks just to talking about spell work. So let's see what else to know. If you're new, also in the meetup body of this meetup description, there is a link to our a Google Doc drive for the Beginner Witch series. You can go in there and download any of the lessons, or at least look at them. I haven't actually tried. I think you can at least see them. Anyway,
shareable thing.
that's a shareable thing. Yeah. So there's that, and then of course our YouTube channel, Seven Green Sisters, where we upload the videos from our meetups. At least all of the Beginner Witch series and many of our other meetups that we've had. By the way, we've been here since November of 2020, and today we are at, I'm going to guess we're close to 1,200 witches. Have we hit 1,200 yet?
It's close.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It's very cool. And we had, we were fortunate enough to be able to have our very first in-person meetup. I wish you all could have been there. The restaurant, Mellow Mushroom, would have been super crowded if we were all there, but that would have been okay.
We would have
we had like 5 people come and stay for a couple of hours and hang out and talk about things they were looking for. And I don't know if you heard Jamie talking about Solitary Witch Society, which is an organization or an association rather that I want to start. I've got the domain name. I just need to give thought to what exactly that's going to be. So one of the things I asked the women who were there was, what would you be looking for, and something like that. So we talked about that and other things, and it was really nice to connect with witch friends one-on-one. So we have another meetup in a couple of weeks, 3 weeks.
Punta Gorda. No, it's in 2.
We're
It's
going to
like
be in
the
Paris.
3rd of April.
Okay.
Yeah, the 3rd of April.
All right. Well, she's going to
for
Paris
sure.
in like 3 days. So anyway,
Can't believe it.
so and she's going to be gone for a week, but yeah, April 3rd
It's
Punta
Punta
Gorda,
Gorda.
and then we have a meetup planned for St. Pete that we're still looking for a location for. We haven't decided on that one yet, but we will have a meetup there. And then we scheduled one for Sarasota for anybody who's close by. So
Yeah.
for those of you who are near us here in Sarasota, we hope we'll see you there. So it is 7:34, and I think I've done the introductions. So so I'm going to dive right into it because we have a lot to talk about tonight.
What about recapping a little bit on last week? Is there anything that we can say for last week? Because, having these meetings where we section up the ideas and then running them together, unless you're like watching all 4 videos back to back, I'm not sure that you understand exactly like the flow and what we're trying to create as far as why we divvied up the information.
I don't know, where's my
Our old notes.
So we've done, what we did is we broke these up into pre-spell work 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And so if you grab the notes from those, we
I
can go
think
over them,
so.
or unless you have it in
Just like,
memory.
I don't.
I know.
Because we've been creating
We've
other
been creating
stuff.
things. So yeah. So
This is 10. Yeah. Okay. So 10 was
this was 2.
bringing in the change. Yeah. So this was, because we're on week 11. So this is week 10.
So last week. Okay.
It was all about
It was
picking your location and getting.
It was
your
about
things
creating the
together.
rituals
Cleansing,
the types of rituals that you may perform before you
your
perform
spell.
before your spell. So
Yeah.
that's what I was about. It's like location, clothing, what to eat, music, all of those things.
Cleansing
So,
yourself, your tools, your space.
Yeah.
We did talk
Giving
about
yourself
casting.
enough time, giving yourself plenty of time.
So all of that was last week. And now we're moving into the actual spell work, where it's moving from directions to intuition.
Yes.
so that you don't have to rely on a book.
Okay. So the first thing is, what makes a spell powerful? I'll give you a few things that we came up with that we believe makes a spell powerful. Your attitude toward the outcome, toward your outcome or goal, and believing that you deserve that outcome or goal. So your spell work is about believing in the thing that you want. I say this like numerous times a year. So believing in it, believing you deserve it, believing you can have it, seeing yourself having it. That's what makes your whole attitude and the energy that you put in to that belief and thoughts about that spell is what makes the spell powerful. The energy from the feeling is either aligned with your outcome or not. So if you're having doubts, you're asking for something, but you're having doubts that you can actually get that something, that would be where your attitude or your energy rather, or feeling is not aligned with your spell. The quality of your energy is more important than the quantity of it. So focused energy for 5 minutes is better than unfocused energy for 30 minutes. You know, and unfocused energy is you're with your spell, but you're thinking about other things. Oh my gosh, I got to pick up the kid. I got to, it's the mind chatter. It's, you know, it's interruptions, whether they're mental interruptions or physical interruptions. So the amount of time that you're spending with it, it's not the amount of time, it's like how much of the time are you truly focused on the one thing that you're trying to manifest in your life.
Quality over quantity.
So the more aligned your energy, the more powerful your spell. And remember, you create the energy. You create your energy around the spell. You create the power.
And this is why we move from directions to intuition, because if you imagine yourself reading a book of spells that somebody's written with their words,
like this awesome book with great ideas.
Awesome book. Love that book for resources. But as you read it, you might, now that we're telling you about this, go back and read something and then see how you actually feel about it. What feelings come up for you? Because most of the time it's not like, yes, oh, this is perfect. I love this. This is so me. You know, you don't get that really excited energy. You're like, oh, damn. Okay, well, now I need to go find garnet because I don't have any of that. And then where am I going to get gold string at? And so you start going through this process of like action to do things rather than building this energy of something. That's why somebody else's written spells are great for inspiration, but to get you in your best energy center, like listening to your favorite song and not somebody else's favorite song, that's what's going to really help you make the spell. We call it powerful, right? But really it's just energized. It's bringing through that strong energy. So I'm not sure if we put that in here somewhere, but when we talk about power, like what is the power thing? It's energy that you bring, right? How much of a joyful feeling can you bring in, or a gratitude feeling, or a release of negative stuff.
So spell work is energy work.
Spell work is energy work.
Spell work is energy work. That's what it is.
Spell work is
energy comes from the witch.
The witch. Which is the magic comes from the witch. The energy is, you know, all of that. The powers
in the witch.
So those terms can sort of be or replaced with each other, right? Mm-hmm. So power, your energy, your feeling, those are all heightened or not, and that's what'll help. The other thing with written spells is you get a lot of the like what to do, but not why you're doing it. And the why needs to come from you. So that's why making a spell for yourself and feeling like you chose things that have meaning to you rather than somebody else's list is more beneficial, because like you have a connection to that thing, especially if you've had it around for a while, like a crystal that you do look at every day, or you've cleansed multiple times, or, you know, just that you've worked with, held a piece of jewelry, things like that. You have a more intimate connection with that item. I'm not great at the reading of the notes.
Listen, you can
She's so good at the reading, but like I have to focus on it.
So right brain, left brain. What directions?
Oh, so yeah, the directions get you moving in the right direction, right? So it's action oriented. And the physical things that you do, they don't require you to use your right brain. And so we're going to go a little sciencey on you guys for a minute. You guys remember I'm a psych major. So all of this is really helpful for you to know so that when you're doing stuff, you can think about it. Am I in my right brain self right now, or am I in my like left brain self? Here's the distinction. Your left brain is going to be all that logic and the doing. It's your survival mode. It's your problem solving. Whereas your right brain that's the creative side. When you're painting or you're zoned out, you're reading something and like time is gone for you. You just, where'd this hour go? That's your right brain. And the right brain is what fills us with the energy and the power of the emotions and allows us to get into situations where we're amped up in energy. So if we're following directions, which is, that's what we're talking about with the old spells, we're not using that creative center that actually boosts that energy. And now I don't know where we're talking about the other thing.
Intuition. So your intuition is a left brain function.
Thank you.
It works without logic. So this is where, and it may feel like you're guessing sometimes, and that's okay because
that's right.
Because you are guessing.
Mm-hmm.
You're following your instinct. You're trusting your feelings over logically thinking about what you're doing. So for spells to work, you need to take the logic out. All the logic comes before you sit down to do your spell, as you're gathering all of your things together. You're thinking about what you're going to say. You're setting up your space. You're turning everything. All those are things that you're what do you call that? I don't know what you call that. You're following directions. Or at least
you're solving a problem.
You're
bringing with you.
There you go.
Yeah. So in that, you're like, all right, I'm doing step 1, step 2, step 3. So it's a real physical action. Know that you're using that logical side of your brain. That's not creation. That's logic. So when you're ready to do the spell part, you want to allow yourself to be in that creative side where you don't have to remember things. I think we're going to get into the chanting in a minute, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have to read a spell from a book to do a spell, that is left brain thinking. And when you're doing a spell, you need to be in your right brain. You need to be in that zone of
feeling and
just
emotion.
Feeling and emotion. And you were going to tell the story about the left from the God book.
Goddess versus the alphabet.
Goddess versus the alphabet book.
One of our favorite books right now that we've been reading and rereading or listening to on Audible is The Goddess versus the Alphabet, because it takes us back through like anthropology, how humans evolved and sort of the things that we know about our physical selves. So knowing about the physical body that our spirit resides in can help us understand what's going on physically when we can't explain it emotionally. So when this book brings up the separation between male and female, that females were the caretakers, right? And so the left hand was always where they carried the baby, and the right hand was for picking or gathering, also for spears or defense. And what's really interesting that we know now is that left hand is actually connected to the right brain. That creative, caring, nurturing, powerful energy self is the left hand. So if you've gotten into palmistry or looked into other stuff about like wearing your jewelry on certain hands and what they all mean, that goes back to connecting with the parts of our brain that's the creative side versus this is the logical side, self-defense, survival. So
you could use your left hand in your spell if you
don't have to be left-handed.
And you don't have to be left-handed to do that. Yeah, just to move things around or whatever. I'm like this, I don't have any Italian in me, but you think I would. You think I do the way that I wave my hands around. So,
talk with the hands.
I'm like with the energy.
So how the direction comes. Okay. So in spell casting, using the creative energy to bring about changes in our life, if you can't feel emotionally connected to the change that you want to bring about, you should probably stop and do some asking of why you want that thing anyways. Maybe that's not really the thing that you're looking for. It's just the thing you think you want, Kat's example of she wanted to call in a relationship into her life. And when it actually happened, she's like, oh, you know what? I actually don't want that. I just want to value my time and my freedom more. But it took that instance of like understanding her asking for it and getting a little bit of it for her to go like, oh, okay, I don't want that spell now. Actually, I don't need to do a spell for.
I actually like my alone time.
Yeah. Yeah, she realized it. So sometimes asking for, or the energy surrounding the things that we want to do spells for, to bring into our life, if there is a disconnect, that's when you reassess and say, what is the thing that I'm actually looking for? So that it's a helpful point once you get there. And if you can't get into your spell, it's why is there no feeding of energy there? You know, why can't you pull anything up and emotions around it? We talk about the feeling starting in like your chest or your heart chakra. If you can imagine feeling overwhelmed, where does that feeling in your body go? If you imagine feeling really happy or joyful, like when you cry and you're heaving, tears of joy or sadness, like it starts in our chest first. So that's a place to focus on a feeling when you're trying to bring energy forward from you. It's also when we talked about doing our protection stuff, I always center it here first and have the protection bubble grow around me for casting. All right. Instructions give us ideas of what to do, but our feelings provide the reasons why we do them. You see that we're reiterating this over and over again, so that as you read spells and you get ideas, that you're really focused on what you want and not just what a book tells you to do. Using your instinct or feeling to pick up spell items, making it personal to you. So like I said, the book might give you instructions for things to pick up, but you're like, I don't have any of that stuff laying around, but I could bring in a plant that I really like that makes me happy, or I could, you know, this stone that I always carry around, I don't even know what it is, but it can just be part of the spell. You don't have to have the certainty or the correctness in order for things to work. You really have to bring the feeling forward. And if you bring objects in that give you feeling, that's helping your energy. That's helping your power. Okay. Oh, shit. The intuition is what helps you bring all the items together. So Kat's story of walking through her house looking for items that she related to, what was it? Was it love or?
Well, we did two. One was love,
One was
and
love.
one was psychic.
Oh yeah, psychic
intuition.
growth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she picked like purples and blues and
yeah. What I thought of, and we're actually going to go through this little exercise so you have some ideas for questions you can ask yourself when you are trying to pick, like literally create your own spell from scratch. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But this part where it is where Jamie's saying right now, your intuition helps you pull all those items together. You're going to go through as you're thinking about whatever it is you want to bring into your life, and what visions, what images, icons, smells, whatever, what comes to your mind. What do you think about when you think about that thing that you want in your life? Then you go looking like, and what do you see in your house
that makes you
feel that way, that draws you?
So you might think of this as like it's your instinct and not your intuition, but I will tell you that if you think about instinct, intuition, and feelings as interchangeable words as well, like don't get too caught up on how we label it and what it means for you. If you want to call it instinct, that you do something as a reaction without having a reason why. If you want to call it intuition, that's better, but it's the same thing. It's still something that you're doing that doesn't require thought. So in our notes that you can download, I did give little definitions for each word so that you can kind of see how they're all very similar. So for instinct, it's an action or a reaction without thinking, right? The thought, the logic is gone. It's like, I know what I need to do. For intuition, it's knowing something to be true without a thought. So that's like that gut feeling of, I should not turn here. I should wait till the next light or something. You're like, I don't know why I think that. And you know, your logical brain's like, you're totally fine to turn here. Don't worry about what you're feeling like. Let's do the turn. Let's follow the directions. And then the feeling part is what is evoked after you have that instinct or that intuition thing going on in your body, because it's a physical sensation that comes from an event that didn't have thought. So your feeling comes from that intuition or that instinct thing that you did. And sometimes it'll give you a feeling of like, ooh, that was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. Like, you know, kind of instantly that you shouldn't have accepted, you know, a date offer from somebody or exchanged numbers with somebody or whatever, you know, things that you've done that you're like, oh, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. But in the moment you did it, or it's things where you're like, I followed my instinct on this and it led me to the most perfect place ever. And I'm so glad that I just went wandering and didn't think about logic and directions. So those are the three that I defined in the notes.
Okay.
So in learning to use your
So learning or strengthening your, learning to use your intuition and strengthening your intuition. As you're picking items for your spell, allow yourself to pick items that bring you joy, make you happy, or have meaning to you. Don't worry about what a book says, what you read on Instagram or Facebook, or what somebody told you is the right way to do it. No, pick the things that bring you joy, pick the things that make you feel happy and have meaning to you. Because this is how you are elevating your energy and your vibration as you're bringing these things together. You can, after you've selected things for your spell, you can look up the meaning of them later, but don't spend time looking up meanings and then going around trying to find stuff. Let that process of choosing those items, whether it be a color, a candle, a crystal, an herb,
a ribbon,
a ribbon, something from your house, a plant, anything, whatever it is, allow yourself, trust yourself to just to know what to do. Even if you're like, I don't know what this means, that's okay. That's good. That's where you want to be. Creating magic should feel fun and inspiring and lighthearted and joyful, and not dictated by, am I doing this right or wrong? There is no right or wrong. There's just learning through experience. Let your intuition surprise you. And you know what? Let your intuition pull you in whatever direction it leads you, versus abiding by some rule that somebody said, following some direction in a book. Like I said, great for ideas, but better if it comes from you and you just allow yourself to trust what comes in, what's in your heart, and what leads you, what you're led to from there. If you're still afraid of being wrong about picking tools or spell additives, remember that before books were written, we only used our imagination, our intuition, to give magical purpose to items. The magic's in the witch, not in the item.
Remember, the reason we choose the things that are written in books is because we figured out either vibrationally, they've really worked for a long time for people. So when we look at books that have the cross references for items considered, good for luck, good for love, good for finances, health, wealth, whatever, usually that's coming from history. So this is things that's been passed down that people have already learned to do. This is all what we know from days of old that got passed down. And if we don't know it, somebody had to be the first one to say, this is what I think it is because here's its characteristics, here's where it grows, this is what it does during a season, whether it's a plant, whatever. So even for your own yard, you could give the things that grow around you, you could assign them your own magical properties because you've watched what their life cycle does and how it makes you feel, or things that go on with it. We had somebody talk about they were growing borage in their yard. Well, they weren't growing it, actually. It just showed up like outside the garden box. And she told me that borage was used for anxiety. And it's a huge plant. She showed me a picture of it. And that was the thing. If something shows up in your life like that as a sign of like, hey, here's a plant that deals with something like this, maybe you're experiencing that. Maybe it's looking for you to acknowledge it. The universe is bringing in a sign of something for you to look into other ways to deal with a problem. So, yeah. Did I get off on that?
You're
My
fine.
story
You're fine. You're absolutely fine.
Is it on to okay,
we're here.
So one of the things that for me with spells is the people's words. Like, words are really important to me as far as the emotion or feeling that they evoke when you use them. And I don't do it on here really, but I cuss a lot in my normal life. Like, I can be talking to myself or something else, and I'll use cuss words because I just do. I was in the Navy and I cussed like a sailor, and I'm proud of my ability to get in enough F words to fill a page, and I'm only saying three other words, but it's something that I choose to do when I'm just with myself, right? So it's my comfortable language. I don't go out into the world and speak like that because I don't think other people take it as kindness, and that's what I'd rather spread. So with me, it's like a very joking humor, you know, even the, what do you like? I was going to say raunchy jokes, but I'm not sure if raunchy is the word. But anyways, I bring all of that with me from my time in the military, and I'm proud of that. I had to be around Marines. I couldn't let anything bother me. You cannot show weakness. Otherwise, you'll be, you know, I don't want to say picked on, but you'll get extra attention if they think you're squirmish or, you know, get queasy over something. So in reading words from books, that's probably my biggest problem, is because it never feels natural for me to say somebody else's words that they wrote. I will change things in them. So that's an idea for you. If you do get something as a resource and you don't want to rewrite it yourself, you can change a few words within there and maybe still keep it rhyming, but at least then you've added in your own fingerprint to that spell. I have definitely custom my spells. I want you guys to know that. I write them down afterwards usually, but if I think of something that rhymes for me and there's a cuss word in there because maybe I'm really passionate about it and I am like this, I go ahead and say it. The universe isn't really taking my words for the spell. It's more the energy that the words can evoke from me, right? So if you can listen to a really sad, sappy song versus a song that hypes you up and the different emotion that brings, those are the words and the music that are helping you raise your vibration with that. It's the same thing when we listen to meditation music. It brings us sort of slowing down. You know, your breath becomes more steady, you're more centered, you're aware, you're trying not to think of anything else. So if you have to read something by memorization, remember you're not going to be using your right brain, which is the emotions and the creative side. You'll be using the logical side, and your emotions will be like nothing. I want you to imagine reading your textbook from school, whatever school, high school, middle school, something you didn't like, and you just had to sit there and read it. And you're like, and then she went over to the spring and she did the thing and she went to this way and blah, blah, blah. There's nothing there that feels good for you. So that's where I would say, like, make sure that the words are your own.
And, you know, it's one of the things that I think in so many of the books that we have about, you know, these, you know, spell books for new witches, great stuff, you know,
Resources.
great
Yeah.
resources in there, but none of them really tell you that you need to get in this place and the words need to mean something to you. They don't explain it like that. So this part of it, if you're brand new to spells and you haven't really done them before, or you felt like you've done them and you haven't done them right, because that's what a lot of people think. Well, it didn't work, or somebody told me that I didn't do it right, or something like that. The right part is, I mean, I don't want to say it's the right part. The effective part is, you know, with spell work, you're trying to raise your vibration. That's what you're trying to do, your energy level. And in order to do that, whatever you're doing, whatever ritual you're doing, whatever things you have in front of you, you need to be connected with them, and you need to feel something from that, because that's what elevates you. You just mentioned a song, a sad song or a happy song. Imagine yourself when your favorite song comes on the radio, and you're just all of a sudden you crank it up and you're rocking out, you're dancing around, man. You're just like singing at the top of your lungs. You love this song so much. That's the energy you want. Versus a song comes on and you're like, oh my God, that song, quick, turn it off. I can't stand it. Mm-hmm. So that energy that you feel when you feel that like favorite song that you love so much, that's what you want to bring. That's the level. That's the vibration that you want to be raising in your spell, even if it's not a happy thing. You know, it's the level of energy is what I'm trying to get across.
And it is. It's whatever helps you raise your energy level. That is the whole point, because once your energy level is raised, you're going to focus it on the outcome that you want in your life, and you're going to keep it there for as long as you can. And that is your spell. All the other stuff that we do, the added tinctures, candles, colors, whatever, those all just help us raise our vibration. So I kind of think about it like you need to match the energy level of the outcome that you want. So in manifestation, like thinking about money is always a big one, and how they explain you can't feel wealthy if you come from a place of lack. Like if you really believe that there's not enough money, or you don't have something, or you can't get it until, that's coming from a place of lack, rather than telling yourself every day, like, I have everything that I need to be happy. I'll accept more. I'll bring in more, but you stop saying things like, I don't have enough. I can't do that. I don't spend that. You change the language of it so that the energy is not like, I'm broke as hell. I don't have any money. I don't make enough, because those words are what the universe hears and will bring into you. Instead, it's like, I have everything that I need. I'm safe. I'm healthy. I'm happy. I'm bringing in more. And so it's just a slight change, but the vibration that you're bringing yourself to at that point is like, I attract abundance. Just keep saying it every day like that. Instead of saying I'm broke, I attract abundance. I attract money to my life. People give me money freely for no reason.
This is the law of attraction. So if you've ever read anything about the law of attraction and what you think about, you bring about, that kind of, that's what this is. So even when you are not in the middle of doing your spell and after your spell, you need to keep that mindset going of, it's money. I have everything I need. So don't let those negative thoughts come into your mind. And if they do, I was listening to James, I'm doing a 4-day thing, James Van Prague. And today he's talking about that. He's like, don't think about negativity. And when I do, then I'll say, cancel, clear that to the universe. So that the universe is like, doesn't get that image of whatever it was he was thinking about. I wrote that down because I thought I could really use that. Like when I say something, it's like, cancel, clear that.
It's anything that can shift you out of that automatic talking, so you can see how we're moving through many parts of Spellwork. Spellwork is not just about repeating something out of a book. There's a lot of things involved with it when you're trying to become the best caster that you can, when you're trying to invite things into your life with change that you want. There's many elements to it. The one thing that we talked about when we were making this was thinking about us as however you want to do this, but your energy is a radio station or a radio signal trying to reach another destination to pull that future towards you. So your energy needs to be strong enough to reach that tower as the signal to match that. So it's so they can hear it clearly. I just said they. It's aliens, you guys. That's who we're really talking to. So that the universe can hear it clearly and know what it is to bring to you. One of the reasons why things rhyme or we create chants, or you'll often find that within these books, is because if you get a chant going, if you get a small, little rhyming thing going, you can repeat it over and over again. And even though your body is busy doing this action, your mind can really feel the energy of like what you're trying to bring in. So if it's something about love, you can just, I don't know, you could say love to yourself like 100 times. And at the end of that, how do you feel? That's more shadow work on that side, but it's changing your energy level to match what the spell is. That was for that. We went over that, not having the items. Yes. Oh, so the particular areas in which books are written from, this is another thing on why the list in books may not work for us. A lot of these things do come from Europe. I mean, because that's where a lot of our ancestors come from, is not in America, right? We're all immigrants from all over the world, unless you're Native American. And in that case, you already have a beautiful thing going. You don't need us to tell you how to do it. But the connections with our plants and animals here in America vary from the plants and animals that are in Europe. So try to get to know the things here that you can get in your area geographically. The trees that grow up north are different than the trees that go south. I picked up
bark tonight at the park because I found bark that I really liked. So from a pine tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are slash pines. That's the kind of pine trees we have down here. And they make this really thin, flaky bark, but you can write on it like paper.
Yeah.
It's an excellent spell source. So if you go out into nature, think about the things that you can use in your spell that are natural, that can return to the earth when your spell is done, which is something that we have to talk about in another meetup. But,
right.
So that was all with that's why I don't want you guys to feel overwhelmed when you read a spell list and you're like, what the F is that? Like, where do you get that? And why? It has to come from off the internet because somebody somewhere way far away has to grow it and dry it and ship it to you. It doesn't have to be all that. So. Okay, so then it's ideas for connecting with intuition.
Okay, so
Over to you. I can talk.
oh, all right. So asking yourself, okay, so here's some ideas for connecting with your intuition. Asking yourself questions helps pull from your experience, which is what influences your intuition. Let me repeat that. Asking yourself questions helps pull from your experience, which is what influences your intuition. This is why each witch's spell for this same outcome will be different. So I want to ask for money. Sandy H wants to ask for money. We're going to have two different spells because we're going to be coming from two different places.
Yeah.
Example. You want to create a spell to manifest something in your life. Maybe you want a new job, a new place to live, a new love, a better relationship with your family, health, wealth, or money to buy a new car. This is the thing you want. Another way to think of this, imagine you already have the thing that you want. What does your life look like? How do you feel when you have the thing you want? Because when you do your spell, you need to be in that place where you can imagine what it feels like to have it and what it feels like and what your life looks like. When you think about the thing you want, we're back to ways to, ask yourself or hone into your own personal experience, draw from your own personal experience and intuition. When you think about the thing you want, what images, smells, colors, words, symbols, sounds, people, feelings, or places come to mind? So when you think about that thing that you want and how your life is going to be different, what mental images do you get? For each of the things that comes to mind when thinking about the thing you want, write down any association. So I don't know. If it's a new car, what pops in my mind just automatically with a new car is leather. I probably wouldn't buy a new car with leather, but leather comes to mind when I think about a new car. I might also have a favorite colors, like I really love red cars or something like that. But the first thing that comes to my mind with a new car is leather, because you think about the smell, that new car smell, and it just reminds me of leather. That's my personal experience though. What's yours? It may be something completely different. So by doing this, by writing down the things that come to mind when you think about having the thing that you want, which is what you're doing your spell for, to get the thing you want. By doing this, you start building spell ingredients. So this is us, we're now building a spell from our intuition, because we're taking from our experience and we're thinking about these things, and then we're writing down the associations with them, and then we're going to start collecting them. So you can get spells from a book, and those ingredients may or may not have meaning for you. Just like Jamie was saying, yarrow and a garnet stone. I don't have any of those things. We analyzed a spell a couple of weeks ago. I didn't have anything in that spell.
A string,
yeah. And I don't even think it was orange string at that, but so this is the important part about building your own spell, which is what you include, what you think about, and what you connect with should all evoke a feeling. So whatever it is you're bringing, whether you're following it from a book or you're creating from scratch, anything you choose, you should have a feeling attached to that thing. Okay. Remember, there's no right or wrong answers to these questions. Everyone will have a different answer to each one. And that's exactly what you want, because your spell is your desire to manifest a change in your life, and it should be unique to you. When you get stuck and you don't know what, let's say, perhaps you can't think of what does love represent to you? What does success look like to you? Maybe you can't get in that feeling because you just can't. You're like, I don't know. This might be a time for some shadow work to figure out, so if you can't envision having that thing, what is making you ask for it? So that might be a time to just step back and reflect on the thing that you want and why you can't conjure up these feelings. Because if you can't connect with those feelings, the energy, the vibration in the spell is just not going to be there. The energy's just
Yeah,
not
there's
gonna
not
be
an alignment.
Yeah,
This
there's
is where
not
we
an
talk about
alignment.
the alignments, and energetically aligning with your spell that you create. And I mean, that's true for reading a spell from somebody else. They all look great. They're like, oh, well, this is a very well put together spell. It doesn't mean anything to me though. Like, I'm not sure if you guys have read through spell books and felt that, or if you're very comfortable being able to follow the directions and do all of the things. And if you can raise your energy level, you use the spell from that book. We're not telling you not to. We're just saying that you can do it on your own intuitively and write your own stuff.
So one of the things Jamie does is she writes down her spells after she does them. So she gets all of her stuff together, then she does her spell. So if you choose to do this, you don't have to like plan it out ahead of time. You can have all your things together, not writing them down. And then after you do it, write down what you did, which is, by the way, this is a really good idea anyway.
Write down your spells.
Write down your spells, write down what you did,
Mhm.
and date it, because
Date
you're
it.
going to want to go back and look at that at some point in time.
Yeah. Last year, for whatever reason, I was not dating my stuff. And when I went back and looked at things, I'm like, well, when did I do that? Because I don't make entries every single day within my books. And so it's just like, it was sometime between, May and September. I don't know. Yeah, I wasn't really happy about myself with that. So.
Okay, so I just want to, before we close this out, and I think one of the last things I want to say, and you might have some parting last words too, is that if you notice, if you've been here for a couple of weeks, you notice that we've moved from things to do and having like a list of things to do to like, we're now at the point where we need to connect with our intuition to do our spells. And so I think for new witches, it might feel intimidating if you've never done it before, but just trust your instinct, trust your gut to guide you.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we talked about, or maybe we talked about together, but didn't say in this meetup yet, but when you find yourself gathering things from around your home, resist the urge to go look it up and see if it aligns from a book. Do that afterwards. And one of the things that can be fun and surprising is that you'll pick something and you'll look up its reference later, right? Like what a book says it corresponds to. And it'll actually be something that you're like, oh, I was thinking about that, or that also connects to something else. And this is just little signs from the universe that you're on the right track, that everything is going the way that it needs to go. And if you don't want to look up what any of the items mean, you don't have to do that either. That's my total Virgo side, where that I have to analyze the things that I did and why I did them. Did it fit? And if it didn't fit, what's going on there? And do I need to do something else? And the overthinker, yeah. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine when I started doing my intuition work, it was really hard. I always felt like, not always, but a lot of times I was doing stuff and I'm like, I'm a liar, obviously. Like I'm a fake and a fraud. And like, I can't believe I'm just saying stuff and doing things and this, like, I'm just making this shit up as I go. How is this right? But as I followed the feeling of intuition, I never was wrong. There was nothing there to say, you're really wrong and you did lie about something. There was none of that. It just the feeling of, because I didn't confirm it with somebody else, somebody didn't tell me how to do it. I was like, well, how do I know that that's right? That's when you start to trust the intuition side of it, because you just say, like, you accept that messages can move through you, that as energy moves through you, you just have knowings and you just let that ride out. And as long as you're not doing anything intentionally vicious, like purposely lying and saying, my intuition told me that you're a messed up person and something crazy like that, you're fine. But I did only interact with myself at first. And then I started with my close friends. And the more that I trusted in, I saw like, I can just say this stuff and I can't believe that I'm right. Like it feels so weird. Now I just don't hold back whenever I want to say something. I'm like, it always works out, whether it starts a conversation around something else, or they're like, somebody else said that to me and I don't feel like that's right. And I'm like, oh, well, if two people said it to you and you don't think it's right, what do you think is going on there? Well, denial, huh? Yeah, maybe. So it can bring up other conversations, but that was my only note, I think.
Okay. So that concludes tonight's lesson of Spellwork 1. We're going to do our sign off and then we're going to open up the meetup we're going to turn off the recording and open up the floor to questions. So if you have one, please feel free to raise your hand while we say good night.
Au revoir. I have to be practicing my French.
Okay.
Bonsoir.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you for joining us for week 11 of the Beginner Witch series. We'll see you back next week for week 12, Spellwork 2.
Bye. Okay. And stopping.